Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. So welcome to the show, Beeta. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
I was so excited when you reached out to me because you were coming to Paris and you had started your own retreats, and I got to photograph the group, and you guys did so much fun stuff. I wanted to be on that retreat making perfume, like eating all this delicious food, and now I finally get to share your story with the listeners. So thanks so much for coming on.
Of course. I mean, I'd love to have you in all my retreats because we just had a lot of fun with you too.
Well, I know that you first came to Paris in 2010, but tell us more about your story. I mean, what inspired you to come and how has it influenced your life?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, my first trip to France was in 2010. And I like to say that I wasn't really a Francophile before that. I mean, I had taken some French in college and loved learning the language, but my best friend was studying in France at the time, and she asked me if I wanted to come over winter break and, hang out with her during the holidays. And I thought, well, why not? I mean, Paris is definitely somewhere I've wanted to visit for sure. And I did. And when I got there, I was just, completely in love with the city, with the culture. I thought Paris was truly magical and even prettier than it looked like in the movies and TV shows. And I just fell in love with it. And I went back home totally basking in the memories of that trip and knew I was going to have to go back soon. And so since that trip, I went back multiple times over the next, decade. I would be traveling sometimes twice a year, staying a month at a time. And then finally in 2021, I was able to move to Paris and actually live there.
I think that's so funny that I was the same way. I wasn't really like a Francophile by any means. And I just thought, well, Paris is something I should probably do because everyone's talking about it. But now you've built this beautiful business completely around that experience. I mean, Mon Petit Four. I mean, talk a little bit about what inspired that. You said, okay, I'm going to go back. And now, what made you start a company on top of all that?
Yeah. So first of all, I worked in e-commerce in the luxury fashion space for a long time. It's what I had been doing after I graduated school. And during those jobs, I got introduced to the world of blogging back before blogging even really became a thing. And I learned how to set up a website and really, do blogging as an actual business versus just like a Tumblr account or something where you're just posting, your random thoughts and whatnot. And so I had that knowledge. And then that trip to Paris that I made in 2010 left a deep impression on me with the food in particular. When I came back home, I ended up ordering a ton of French cookbooks and started cooking all these French recipes in an effort to recreate, what I had tried and enjoyed in Paris. And so I started writing those in a blog, those recipes and my tweaks on them. And when I started getting people commenting on it beyond mom and dad, I realized, hey, there's actually, random strangers who are enjoying this content. And so I took a really business-minded approach with it and tried to create really quality content around that. And I realized there were a ton of people out there who were just like me, who had traveled to France and fallen in love with the food and the culture. And that's really how Mon Petit Four started. It became like this place, little corner of the web where other Francophiles like me could come and, enjoy a little piece of Paris at home.
Yeah, and I think that's so special because there are so many American women who love Paris and maybe have never even been to Paris, but they're so enamored by the culture and to have this group where you can all hang out and share things and share recipes. And I know a big part of what you do is simplifying French recipes. So talk about how you do that. Like, how do you figure out how to simplify it?
Yeah, so it's funny. One of the first cookbooks I ordered was Julia Child's. I thought, well, okay, this is sort of like the culinary Bible when it comes to French food. But for those of you who may know, who have picked up Julia Child's book, while it is full of, incredible information and tons of step-by-step information, it doesn't really have pictures. It can be really complicated to read. And it's just not the kind of cookbook I feel like you'd pick up on, especially a weeknight, to make a recipe from. It's sort of that project cookbook. And I wanted to be able to create recipes at home that, were not going to take 3 hours to make every time. And so I tried to take an American approach to like how we read recipes, how we absorb them, and how we actually cook and bake. I converted a lot of recipe amounts into cups because, of course, Europe uses like grams and whatnot. So a lot of that, and then just trying to break down the steps into as few words, but as impactful and descriptive as they could be. And that's like I think the comment I get a lot on my blog is that people not only find the recipes delicious, but they're like, this was way easier than I ever imagined it could be. I think there's, of course, certain recipes like croissants. It's just never going to be an hour-long process. But, for a lot of other, especially one-pot meals like beef bourguignon, coq au vin, these sound really fancy and they look fancy, but they're actually really simple to do.
That's very inspiring because I think we can all be super intimidated by French cooking, and just to break that down and be able to enjoy it is like huge. So talk a little bit about some of your favorite French recipes. Like, what do you like to cook the most?
Oh my gosh. I love the one pot meals. I joke that even though I love cooking, I am a lazy cook. Like, I don't want to have a million dishes afterwards to clean up or use 10 baking sheets to do something. So I would say one of my favorite like cooking dishes or savory dishes is actually chicken provençal. It's basically chicken cooked with olives and tomatoes. It's a very summer dish. Goes great with a nice loaf of French bread and rosé. So it's one of my favorites to make during the summer. And then, of course, comfort foods like a gratin dauphinois, which is, scalloped potatoes with loads of cheese and cream. And then desserts, I'm a big fan of the classics. Like, I love profiteroles, which are basically cream puffs with ice cream and warm chocolate sauce on top, or just a good lemon tart de citron. So yeah, I enjoy the classics, and I try to really focus on, even if I'm not making a classic French recipe, I try to take the French approach of using fresh ingredients and the seasons to help inspire what I'm making. We're lucky that, in California, you have access to a lot of different produce, but still, there's a certain time of year where blueberries are going to be their best and asparagus is going to be its best. So I try to follow that.
Yeah, and I think that's very French because I mean, there's been times even like or I wanted to get some strawberries and they're like, they're not in season. How dare you even ask, you know? Where in America, everything's 24/7. You can have it, just think about it, but it might not taste that good. So that's
Oh
great.
yeah, and in Paris, it's like also I feel like they deter you because if you do try to even get strawberries in, like January, it's probably 15 euros
Yeah,
a pound, and you're
don't
like,
bother.
never mind.
They don't taste that good. And talk about, I mean, obviously France has influenced your life in many ways, but talk about some of the major ways that you've been like added some of the things you've learned in France into your everyday life in America. Like how have you changed? I'm sure it's changed you in some ways.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I didn't realize it had changed me so much because like I said, had been traveling to France for a long time before I ever lived there. And I felt like I had adopted a lot of the different French lifestyle aspects. And so when I came back from living in France for a year, I realized I had changed a ton. And I feel like the biggest change is just in the pace of my life. One of the things I notice a lot being in America is just how everyone has this really hustle mentality. And I don't mean that just in the boss babe hustle work mentality, but also just in a go, go, go. Like everyone is in a rush eating food compared to the pace in which we would eat, in France, or just running errands. Like everyone is in a hurry. People are impatient and waiting in lines. And in France, you don't have that as much. And so I feel like there's a certain art of living and savoring in France that we don't really have in the States. And so I definitely appreciate that about France. And I feel like it's helped me slow down in my life. And also just, I think this focus on quality versus quantity in America, we're very much consumerists. And we can get wrapped up in having things versus really enjoying experiences. And so I really appreciated that aspect in France of just enjoying life.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that being a freelancer, I'm still guilty of being like a fast-paced person because I'm like, I can only do what I can do for myself, you know? But like it's then living in France, it's like, okay, just like calm down a little bit, like have a glass of wine, chill out. So it's kind of like combining that entrepreneurship with like French lifestyle, which I'm sure it sounds like you've done too, or it's like we're workaholics, but also we're constantly reminded to slow down, where in America you're kind of more praised for being so fast paced.
Oh yeah, I see a lot of people, in especially like the digital entrepreneur space where they pack their schedules, they are working like 24/7, and I pride myself on working as little as possible. I'm like, no, it's about working smart, not hard. And so I really, really enjoy having a balance between my work, even though I'm passionate about my work and love it. I'm also passionate about, spending my time with my family, friends, and my dog.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree on all that. And what are some things that you wish Americans knew about France? I think we have all these like preconceived notions about what it's going to be, and especially in Paris. Like, what are some things you wish people knew that they probably don't?
I think that one of the things that really helped me when I moved to France was that I came from a really humble perspective, ready to just completely drop everything I knew to be true and expected in the States, and was really open to adopting the French way of doing things. So I think that that is probably one of the biggest hurdles for Americans, is that like everybody talks about customer service, right? Everyone knows kind of you're not really going to get that in France compared to the US. And I think that's just one of the many things you have to change your view on. I think also really making an effort to connect with others and make friends, because one of the hardest parts of moving abroad away from your family and friends is being alone and that loneliness. And so it really helps to be an outgoing social person. It doesn't mean you have to be the type of person that's like life of the party, but you just have to be willing to come out of your comfort zone and, talk to new people, even if you normally wouldn't do that at home. I think that kind of effort really pays off. And then, like I said, just being aware that there are certain conveniences in the States that you're not going to have in France. But I'm a glass half full sort of person. So I always like to think there's pros and cons of everywhere. And I really just tried to focus on all the positives when I was in Paris and not dwell in some of the things that were harder or I felt like were lacking compared to my life in the States.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because so many people arrive and they're just like, this is not the same. And it's like, that's not why you moved here. It's not to
They're like,
be.
where's the dryer?
Yeah, everyone, I mean, I'm so sick of watching my laundry dry, but my clothes last a lot longer now.
Yeah,
All that
true.
hand drying.
I
And
think I was actually surprised at how much I was able to adapt to certain things like that. That I thought, oh my god, what am I going to do without a dryer? But you learn to really, like I said, adapt to certain things, and the warm, flaky croissants in the morning definitely help.
yeah, definitely. You can make sacrifices for the right food groups. Mine would be cheese. The reason I could probably never be a vegan, cheese. Now, as a writer and an entrepreneur, talk about some of the creative resources that have helped you along the way to help you evolve and keep growing your work.
I'm a big fan of education. I've probably bought multiple digital courses. I've worked with different coaches. So I really do believe in investing in yourself. I coach women now myself, but before I ever did that, I had a coach myself. And so I think that even if you're not always getting like a monetary ROI from something that you enroll in, you're always learning something and there's always something to take away. So I'm a big fan of that, and always encourage others that if there's something they want to try, enroll in a digital course. There's classes on Udemy for, as like cheap as $10-12. And then there's coaches that you can pay hundreds or thousands of dollars with. It's whatever, you're obviously comfortable with, but there's a wealth of information online to access.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times we have a hard time, like especially people who enjoy experiences, like spending $100 on a class or whatever, but they'll spend $100 on a purse or a plane
Right.
ticket, and it really puts it in perspective that will be maybe a longer, better term investment, especially for creatives and artists, because we have such a hard time with money sometimes, and we don't want to waste any because we might not have that much. So it's good what you're saying, like long term you will get your money back or even a better sense of life. And I know coaches are all the rage. They have been for a long time, but there's a lot of, naysayers out there that, there's a lot of people that aren't good coaches or don't even know what they're doing themselves, but they're a coach. Like, how do you find the right coach? Like, what's some advice if someone is looking for a coach?
Yeah, I always tell people it's funny when they're like, oh, like, I don't know, is your program right for me or not? I'm like, just hang out in my world for a little bit, before you even want to work with me. Like, there's no rush. And I think that one thing I've learned from coaches I've hired or courses I've enrolled in is that I've got the most out of them when the coach or the mentor is someone that I've vibed with, who runs their business or has the mindset around their business that I want to have. And I think that makes a huge difference, because there's a lot of, for example, business coaches who have tons of strategies, and all those strategies are great and probably all work in different ways. But if one of those strategies is not the way I want to be running my business, then I'm not going to get that much out of working with that coach. So I think it's really important to, before you hire anyone or work with anyone, you sort of hang out in their world, follow them on Instagram, follow their blog, and just see what is their energy, their personality, their mindset. And if you feel like you're aligned with that, then you'll probably have a good experience working with them.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, because I think some people are really, they love certain people, but they're like, oh, I don't know, is this legitimate, or will they help me the way I need help? So, and I think that's really smart. Like if you're connecting on many levels, then they're probably going to be able to help you as well. And what's some business advice you would give to creatives? Like what's some of the best business advice you've gotten?
I think one of the things I always think about when I look back at my journey, and I think, oh, I could have probably progressed a lot quicker than I did. When I think about that, I think about just the general approach to being an entrepreneur. I think what happens when you're a creative, especially in the online space, is that the barrier of entry is so low. It really doesn't take much to start a website, get a domain name, put yourself out there. A lot of platforms like Instagram or TikTok or whatnot are free, so they don't require money. And sometimes that can be a bit of a bad thing, because people will get started with their businesses not expecting to really put that much money into it. And they try to be crafty and do everything themselves, DIY it all. And I think that one of the best things you can do if you do have a hobby that you want to turn into a business is figure out what your strong suits are, and then whatever isn't, hire that out and take the approach that you are going to put some money into your business and invest. I mean, the fact is, if you wanted to open up a brick and mortar store or restaurant, you would expect to pay thousands of dollars to lease the space, to get the tables, the chairs, hire the chef, all that. And yet somehow when we're creatives and we want to approach our business online, when you have to buy like a $200 website theme, you're like, $200? I don't know, you just don't want to spend it. But I think that if you can wrap your head around really being serious and putting like a business plan together for yourself, you will reach your goals a lot faster than if you're just going to try to DIY everything and be really stingy with the purse strings.
Yeah, and you get burnt out. I mean, we try to do everything, the accounting, the design, the coaching, whatever, and it's a leap of faith, like investing and thinking, what if I don't get my money back? But also, what if you can't go anywhere because you didn't invest anything? So
Exactly. And you don't have to be perfect. I don't want anyone to think that you have to get it perfect before you get started. If anything, I feel like your business will only get better as you get more clients or customers, because you have a chance to intake their feedback and figure out what really works in action. But just, invest in the resources and the help that you need. So like you said, you don't become burnt out or waste your time trying to do things that really aren't your forte.
yeah, exactly. I think that's great advice. And how do you define creativity? What words would you use?
For me, creativity is really just any sort of idea that comes out of me being in a state of joy. Like, I come up with my best ideas when I'm just having fun and I'm happy and carefree. I mean, I had so many great ideas when I was in Paris, just literally like walking across the Seine, feeling like, is this real life? And just super carefree and relaxed and enjoying myself. And that's where my best ideas came from. And I think it doesn't matter what your profession is. If you're a writer, an artist, a photographer, whatever it is, I think that's where the the wisdom, the good ideas from, whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever it is. That's where the enlightenment comes from, is when you're in that state of joy. So for me, being happy is when I'm most creative.
Yeah, I think that joy and flow can be like intertwined. I mean, when you're most present, I know that a lot of creatives, that's why they enjoy their craft, because you're so in the moment. And that's like so much joy in being in that moment, in that flow state. So it's like the fastest track to that, other than years of meditation and Reiki
Yeah.
and whatever else you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I always just think of like the writer who's sitting there trying to put out, a book or an article, and they've got like writer's block because it's really hard to be creative when you're trying to force it
Mhm.
versus when you're, like you said, in that state of flow, the ideas will come pouring in.
Yeah, it's about like taking self-care and taking a moment to chill out, because I think a lot of us have a hard time with that always. I know me too, guys, hashtag me too. So can you talk a little bit about why creatives are attracted to France? Probably because of some of what you just said, but why do you think? I mean, so many creative people come to France and it stands out among other countries in that domain.
Yeah, I think that obviously it's a very beautiful country, beautiful culture. I mean, the scenery is just postcard worthy. This, you're a photographer. But I think also it goes back to, again, that slower pace of life. When you do have the ability to just kind of chill and relax and take things in, that obviously has an effect on your mind. You're allowed to slow down up there and kind of release some of the tension and anxiety and stress that I think often clogs those creative pipes. And so when you are relaxed and you're just a little carefree, those open up. And I think that's why, famous writers like Hemingway and Fitzgerald that all wrote beautiful things from Paris, had the ability to do that because that inspiration was there and was able to come through to them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that it's just, there's so much beauty around you, and maybe it forces you to slow down a little bit, which is all key to being inspired and living an inspired life. So cheers to that. And I want to end with talking a little bit about your business and where people can connect with you. Talk more about the websites, the Instagram, everything you do.
Yeah. So, what's been amazing is that what started out as just like a recipe site, Mon Petit Four, has now evolved into a full lifestyle brand. So, two of the things that I've added since then that I love working on right now is my coaching. I basically work with women who are looking to adopt some of those French lifestyle principles to implement in their own lives, in a one-on-one coaching container, as well as hosting retreats in France. And these are basically like curated trips where we go, for instance, this April, we're going to Paris for a week, and we're staying at an incredible 5-star hotel and doing these really luxurious experiences where you're basically enjoying the best Paris has to offer for a week. And so I host those. We have one coming up in December, a French holiday retreat where we're going to be in Paris and Strasbourg. And tickets for that are still available. So if anyone wants to check that out, they can. But you can follow me also on Instagram at Mon Petit Four, and definitely send me a message to introduce yourself because I love meeting new people.
Wonderful. Well, I can't wait to see you back in Paris. And the one in December sounds great. I'm obsessed with Strasbourg in the holidays. It's beautiful there. I try to go every year. So that's going to be a great trip. And thanks so much for sharing all your insights today.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Crystal.
Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.